Good afternoon. Welcome. KTN Business Today starts right now. My name is Peter Akaba, and over the next 1 hour, we will endeavor to bring you up to speed on matters making business headlines, not just here in Kenya, but indeed across the region and right across the world. From the team here at our Mombasa Road Standard Group Center Studios, it is Karibuni Sana. Now today, quite a wide array of issues on this show for you, including, of course, the fact that there are several different events that are currently ongoing, including the continued foray into what exactly is happening in the sugar industry by Parliament. Several committees will continue to cross into those live for you. Also here on this show, the fact that, well, while so many different things have been going on with regards to counterfeit goods in this country, little has been said about the motor vehicle industry sector. And our Twitter poll question for the day addresses just that question. And today we are asking you, have you ever fallen prey to buying counterfeit goods? And, well, what was your reaction to that? What exactly was your experience? Talk to us. You can reach us on @KTN News via Twitter, or use the Twitter handle at Peter Akaba. The hashtag is KTN Business. Of course, we will be sampling that conversation as the show does go on. Also on this show, quite a significant focus on the fact that the country is indeed swiveling towards STEM-based education. That, of course, is the sciences and mathematics. Also a huge focus on vocational training. Two significant conversations into that. One, of course, the perspective that we are going heavy into training around the usage of computers and online education. The foundation that is looking into that will be later on here in studio. Priya Budabati will be heading that conversation. But also on this show, a very special guest all the way from Australia, the Vice Chancellor of the Edith Cowan University, here to talk to us about, well, what exactly they have been doing to be able to drive education, not just in their part of the world, but also here in Kenya and across East Africa. The Vice Chancellor here in studio, Steve Chapman, a man who has vast experience in education. He is renowned for his focus on bringing women into the education sector, and also for calling for a significant drive to increase the focus on STEM-based education. That, of course, later on in the show. Well, let's start off with a quick look at the markets themselves. And, well, bring you up to speed on what exactly is happening around the currencies and the markets. We start off with a quick look at the Kenya shilling, the dollar, the, of course, sterling pound and euro currency pairs. The dollar currently pegged at 100.74, 100.94 buying and selling levels respectively. The sterling pound pegged at 132.24, 132.52 buying and selling levels respectively, while the euro is pegged at 116.98, 117.24 buying and selling levels respectively. The performance for the Nairobi Securities Exchange, this of course has been the last trading session. Turnover 681 million shillings worth of shares changing hands. Shares traded, some 41 million shares there changing hands. The NSE 20 share index 3,273.98 points, while bonds traded, bond turnover was 2.38 billion shillings worth. Well then, what have been the bulls and the bears of that trading session? These are the most active stocks of the day. Safaricom, Scan Group, KCB and Barclays. Safaricom moving 2.51 million shares. Scan Group 2.01 million. KCB 1.80 million. And Barclays Bank of Kenya moving some 1.75 million shares so far. Now, the winning stocks of the day, TransCentury up 6.41% to 4 shillings 15 cents. Olympia Capital up 7.69% to 2 shillings 80 cents. Eveready up 10% to 1.65 shillings right there. Athi River Mining up 9.84% to 3 shillings and 35 cents on the day. And the losing stocks of the day, Deacons, Samia Africa, Safaricom and Nairobi Business Ventures. Deacons down 4% to 1 shilling 20 cents. Samia Africa shedding 3.70% to 2 shillings and 60 cents. And Safaricom down 3.45% to 28 shillings. And Nairobi Business Ventures down 3.23% to 1 shilling and some 50 cents. Well, then let's get down to it. Look at the stories that have been driving that movement in the economy. And again, to remind you of our Twitter poll question that we are asking, well, have you ever fallen prey into, well, buying counterfeit goods? And what exactly was your experience? Talk to us, reach out to us on @KTN News, on @Peter Akaba, and of course, use the hashtag KTN Business. We will be sampling that conversation as the show goes on. And to tell you, that conversation is literally on fire out there. Well, Kenya's quest to become food secure will remain a mirage unless urgent, deliberate incentives and policy interventions that effectively respond to the impediments in the sectors impacting food and nutritional security are taken into consideration. Now, this is according to a report by the Route to Food Initiative that highlighted the shortcomings of the recently tabled 2018-2019 budget to the agricultural sector.
I know which one. Mario. I'm calling now.
And the dropping.
Well, now to a different story, and this one from the markets. And the Capital Markets Authority has agreed to work with other stakeholders. My apologies, we will be taking that story in just a few minutes. Well, Kenya's sending and receiving remittances are set to benefit from a partnership between Express Money and Cooperative Bank of Kenya. The partnership will enable customers to remit money at 561 agents countrywide. Remittances play an important role in the development of the country and contribute around 2.5% of the country's GDP. Express Money is looking at increasing its footprint in the country to ensure convenient, affordable and secure money transfer services. This partnership with Cooperative Bank of Kenya expands access to Express Money significantly on account of the bank's nationwide branch network and partnership with SACCOs. Well, moving on, the Board of Directors of Stanlib Kenya Limited has today announced the appointment of Ms. Nozifo Makhoba as the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Stanlib Fahari I-Rate effective 1st of July 2018. Nozifo replaces Kenneth Masika, whose contract came to an end at the end of last month. Nozifo is currently the Chief Financial Officer for Stanlib Fahari I-Rate and has 17 years experience spanning across financial management, external audit, property investment and corporate finance. As the Chief Finance Officer of the Stanlib Fahari I-Rate, she has been responsible for financial management, risk management, financial reporting and strategic resource planning. Well, of course, she has been appointed in acting capacity right there. Now, Australia's Lukapa Diamond has found an 89-carat yellow diamond at its 70% owned Muthai mine in Lesotho during the current bulk sampling program. The company's managing director, Stephen Weatherall, said the recovery of such a large diamond so early in its bulk sampling program provided further proof that, just like the neighboring Letseng mine, Muthai is yet another source of large diamonds. The diamond is estimated to be worth some £10 million. Well, indeed, to that conversation that we had talked about earlier, and we're now joined on set by a very special guest all the way from Australia. Of course, the Vice Chancellor of the Edith Cowan University, Professor, right? Steve Chapman.
Yep.
Karibu sana, as we say here in Kenya.
It's great to be here, Peter.
Yeah, so the country has had a significant focus on going into matters of vocational education. Also the fact that we have been striving to start to develop more things like engineers, to develop courses not so much theoretical, but which will respond to what the market has been demanding in terms of skills to drive the economy, ensure things like manufacturing start to take off. Where does the university fit into all this?
Well, look, I think universities around the world underpin economic development. We're usually, not always, but usually ahead of the technological development. So the sort of jobs that students are being trained for in universities now, we actually don't know what the job market will look like. So the important thing is to train students who have general skills. They're flexible, they can problem solve, they can question. And those people really can provide the feedstock for the new generation of jobs that we're going to see. But of those jobs, probably 70% or more will require STEM-based training.
For countries like Kenya, because we've had arts and humanities based lower levels of education for very, very long time. We're only just starting to swivel in the direction that you're talking about. What sort of efforts do you think we will have to put in place to ensure that the people we then try to put into the higher levels of education already have the basics that are needed to transition in the correct direction?
Sure. I think the major role here is at the school level that are going to provide students for the vocational training sector, the higher education sector. And one of the most important things is a mathematical basis. And we're finding this in Australia, that not enough students are going down the mathematical sciences route. They think it's hard, particularly female students. So we need to be encouraging in schools good mathematical training, and that underpins everything. Science, engineering, everything else requires a good mathematical underpinning.
And hence your drive to start to call for more women to even get into more faculty roles, because this then provides the sort of examples that we are talking about, right?
Yep. Well, look, there's a well-known leaky pipeline. So if you look at the number of students going to universities now, more than 50% are female. But if you look at the number of female professors, it's less than 20%. So along the route, we're losing women. And that's something that we are trying to address in a number of ways.
What do you think are the underlying reasons for this?
Well, there's a whole raft of things. If you look at hiring and promotion routes, they're normally dominated by men on committees. And so there's a lot of unconscious bias. So I think one of the most important things is to give people unconscious bias training so that they won't lose the bias, but they'll at least realise they're demonstrating that. I think there's not enough support given to women who are the primary carers. So, for example, creche facilities or returning back to work after maternity leave. They're very practical measures that can really help.
Well, what about, so to say, affirmative actions that can be put in place, creating a sort of real bias towards ensuring that more women transition because of the things that you're talking about that already create a sort of handicap?
Sure. Well, look, in many cases, people have thought about having quotas. The usual people that resist that are women themselves, because they will often say, we want to feel that we got there by merit and not that, we happen to be a woman. But I think we do need to ensure, for example, when we are about to interview, that we have women on the short list. And I certainly now, when I use a headhunter, will not accept a list unless there's a fair proportion of women on it.
Let's talk about the Kenyan situation. We are, so to say, a frontier or emerging market, depending on who you ask. Lots of disadvantages for people who are trying to access education in terms of not just cost, but also things like lack of access to energy, electricity, lack of connectivity in terms of online and that sort of thing. If you're a woman, then you're doubly, literally handicapped. How then would institutions such as yours start to help address such gaps?
Well, we have to put in more support. It's as simple as that. You're absolutely right. Education is transformational. It literally can take you from poverty to success. And so we want to give access to as many people as possible. In the case of helping a gender balance, that means sometimes perhaps a woman is coming and will not have had the opportunities that a man has.
Yes.
So we need to give extra support, for example, on how to access online, how to use it. So I think just being aware of it and tackling it at the root cause and making sure you compensate for disadvantage that has already occurred.
Let's talk about the fact that you are here in the country, and Kenya just being one of many countries in East Africa. So why Kenya? Why Nairobi? Why now?
Okay, well, look, ECU, Edith Cowan University, has had links with Kenya for 20 years.
Yes.
It's our most important market in Africa. We're over here to talk to our agents, talk to alumni. We have 5,000 alumni in Kenya, but also to talk to prospective students and also to start forming links and proper links with universities here. So this morning I was at the University of Nairobi where we signed a memorandum of understanding. We'll have joint research links, we'll have staff transfer, we look at curriculum development together, do benchmarking. So there's a lot we can do with partners in Kenya, and Kenya is our most important market. Something like 370 students in Perth now are from Kenya, and that's 50% of all of the Kenyan students in Western Australia. So we're here in Kenya because it's important.
Yes. Let's finally talk about the market. One of the stories we've just done is about an Australian mining company that found this really huge yellow diamond.
They're very lucky, aren't they?
Yes. And the fact of the matter is that Kenya is just starting in developing its mining sector, especially the oil and that sort of thing. And there's huge learnings that we can get from down south. Where do you think this places you, sort of at a crossroads where it can really be relevant?
Western Australia is probably leads the world in the resources sector, from everything from lithium to oil and gas to iron ore to gold to diamonds. It's an expertise that we have. There's huge technological developments that have happened in that sector. I think we can offer a lot, a huge amount. It would be great to actually form some kind of joint link, maybe through the universities, to provide advice, training, and help develop your resources sector.
Okay, and all this is literally based on the crux that we start to get people to be able to apply, get the online education that they need and that sort of thing. Okay, indeed, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, so that enlightening conversation right there with, Professor Steve Chapman. He is the Vice Chancellor at the Edith Cowan University, and indeed, talking to us about what exactly needs to be done to be able to make more Kenyan learners relevant to the market. And one of the conversations that we'll be following will essentially be all about how you then prepare those students to be able to become relevant in that conversation. That, of course, later on when I start my conversation with Priya Budhabati, who is here from Craft Silicon, just in a few minutes.